Since Tirza raised some questions, I'll give the first comment to Svi to perhaps respond to them.
To reply to briefly to two things. We don't have enough time to go over Rav Saligon, but it's just Rambam and Rav Shmuel ben Chofni. Well, the story with this couple was, yeah, this is the story. How Saligon was a blind person. The oral law was oral law, and they used to hire blind persons to recite the Bible. And there was one who was hired by Mar Shmuel, blind person. יום אחד נגלה, one day he didn't arrive to work, and Rav Shmuel שדר שליחים בתרי. He sent a messenger, he sent people to see what happened with him. Maybe something happened with him, an accident, he did it. And אל תהיו באחד הדרך ואזל שליחה באחד הדרך. Which means the blind person arrived late, and the messenger arrived to his house, returned and said, okay, while you were on your way to work, I found your wife with another person in some
Compromising.
Okay, thank you. So, he asked his rabbi what I should do, and his rabbi said, if you accept them as two witnesses, this one witness as two witnesses, so you should divorce her. So, now, Rav Shmuel ben Chofni says in your handout, number 7. אפילו שהיד אפילו כשהיד ואחד כאן הדלזאו מפקונן בי כשהידיים מסקונן إلى قوله وتلقها لا يجوز له مراجعتها. Even in a case there was a testimony by one witnesses, and one witnesses cannot give testimony alone, so this is not according to the regular procedure of the court. But this witness, the husband relying on him as two witnesses. Now Rav Shmuel ben Chofni adds, it's not written in the Talmud, and he was tranquil toward his words, so he should divorce her. Now, let's go to Rambam. מי שראה אשתו שזינתה, one who saw his wife had some sexual relations, או שאמר לו עד אחד, or one witnesses, מקרובותיו או מקרובותיה, שהוא מאמינם, he believes, וסומכת דעתו על דבריהם. He translated Rav Shmuel ben Chofni from Judeo-Arabic to Arabic, but one switch. He switched from סומכת נפשו, his soul, סומכת דעתו, his mind. Which means Maimonides did not accept the idea of tranquility of the soul, but the tranquility of the mind. Yeah. And the same, הלכות סוטה, אם הוא נאמן לו, ודעתו, סומכת עליו. Which means he accepted the idea, but not the idea of סוכון הנפש, but סוכון אל-עקל, let's say. Now, the same goes with the passage that you mentioned. שלא יאמר look at the end, שלא יאמר כל הדיוט וידיעות, ליבי מאמין לדבריו זה ודעתי סומכת עליו. So he combined it, לב מאמין ודעתי סומכת. So he knew about the concept of the tranquility of the soul. He accepted it in a different way. I think it's typical to Maimonides to do those switches. As for Rav Saligon, I think we don't have enough time because there are some questions.
Okay, so Phil is going
I just want to respond quickly to some of what Professor Meacham brought up, that if we look at the documentary materials that we have from the Genizah, right, what comes out of the court, by and large, is not the ruling of judges, but it is statements, it is rather a fixing by the court of the statements of individuals who came to that court. So that is to say, this function of judging that we're imagining here, right, is really not the primary function of the court, not least because if the court rules in a way that the parties aren't happy with, there's always the possibility that the parties will go to a Muslim court, which causes problems for the Jewish court. So I've written about this, that one of the functions of the court is to sit the parties down and to avoid judging, right, where they don't have this problem at all.
Okay. Yes, you,
Well, I have two remarks. First of all, Tzvi, was really wonderful. I wrote an article in the Jewish Law Annual about actually chapter 24 of Maimonides, and I think what he shows here clearly is against the attitude of Shnei Edim. He's always against Shnei Edim. If they're not reliable, he relies on the Da'at and the Lev. And what I say there, I'm not aware of the Judo-Arabic. I think the theological linkage is more to the Greek or to the philosophers. And you can see in Moreh Nevuchim quite precisely the connection between Lev and Sechel. And no doubt that Sechel, according to Maimonides, is a divine. And therefore, I'm almost, I could show it from, it's written there from a lot of places that Maimonides himself, and he's using here, Lev, he's playing with Lev and Dot all the time. And in the Moreh Nevuchim, he's talking about this notion. I believe it's more accurate to say that maybe both of them took from the Greeks. I don't know. So this is one aspect.
Let me just answer because I need to remember the idea of tranquility of the soul was phrased by Abdel Jabbar, but it's not his idea, and it's well known among people who deeply theology, and Chagai Ben Shammai wrote about it, and some other scholars wrote about it. And the idea is you can trace it back to the Greek philosophy,
Okay.
no doubt. But the way he phrased it and the way that the Judaic scholars phrase it is the same. Because if we spoke yesterday about how they knew something, how the knowledge actually came to the Judeo-Arabic scholars, it wasn't directly through the philosophers, Greek philosophers, but but again, we know for sure that the idea of tranquility of the soul was known to the Jewish authors. Rav Saadia Gaon uses the same term in Emunot Vedot, in Kitab el-Amanat. And also in one of the articles of Chagai Ben Shammai. I can send you the references. So Jewish scholars read Abdel Jabbar for sure. Jewish scholars use the terminology and the concepts of Abdel Jabbar for sure in their theological works. What I'm trying to claim, and this is not new, this is known for the scholars at least for the last 50 years, if not more. What I'm trying to say, that they use it also in their judicial works, and then it came through the Judeo-Arabic scholars to Maimonides and others. But you cannot understand it without understanding the Islamic background. Because if you will read it, not you in particular, but someone that will read Maimonides, or Rav Shmuel ben Chofli, or others, without the theological background, I think they will skip the important concept here, and this what was trying to say is combine them together to have the full understanding.
Okay, another thing about the fascinating unknown author, the Judo-Arabic word, if you go 100 years later, maybe to a Litvak notion, it's fascinating. Maybe they're closer to Judo-Arabic work than they would admit. First of all, you see here the distinction between Edei Kiyum and Edei Raya, constitution, really a shit. And I think the notion of Sechel Shel Torah and Dat Torah, it's very close to to what they're talking about in the philosophical way, something to think about, you know.
Okay, next, first speaker.
Yes.
Okay, just two quick things. Phil, you quoted the Guide 152, and I guess you set it up in such a way as to say, well, none of the predicates are applicable to God, and here he is bothering with these predicates, right? That was
Sure.
The only thing is that I don't remember it well, but I think Guide 152 deals with the essence of God, and there are no predicates, but these are attributes of action, and in the attributes of action, he does admit that you can do that.
Because of course this is Moses seeing the effects of God,
Right.
the back of
Right.
God.
So
if
in the
you will.
attributes, you
for
can
sure,
actually, you
for
can
sure.
actually-
Yeah, yeah.
And to Tzvi,
Sorry.
you made an inference from Rambam's use of dato, that he changed a little bit from
על פי הדברים שדעתו נוטה להן שהיא אמת, not שנפשו נוטה להן שהיא אמת.
כן, but at the end of this little quote that you have in Hilchos Sanhedrin 24:9, it says, כל אלו הדברים והקריאות אם באו לדיין בדין, אסור לו לחתוך אותו הדין, אלא יסלק עצמו מדין זה, וידונונו מי שליבו שלם בדבר. והרי הדברים מסורים ללב.
Yes, you can see also
So you
here,
see that he didn't change completely.
דברי זה ודעתי סומכת.
Yeah,
Yes.
so he didn't change completely. I think he had the heart still.
I think he plays between the Ionic sources and the sources before him and what he thinks. Because he, I think, stressed, the point of Da'ati, but he knows that the sources in front of him are nafshi or libi.
Professor Benjamin.
First of all, I don't think, just a few words, I don't think that Sadia could avoid Abdul Jabbar. Could avoid Abdul Jabbar. Abdul Jabbar is the great summarizer of 200 years of Mu'tazili activity. This shows us that Sadia did read the predecessors of Abdul Jabbar, like Abu Ali Jubai, son Abu Hashim Jubai, and they are the closest to Sadia. Now, what I also wanted, it is not any kind of knowledge. It is any kind of knowledge that is subject to, or the result of, the process or protocol of speculation and inquiry, of nazar.
Yeah.
And this has been made clear a short while after the huge collection of works of Abdul Jabbar was discovered in Yemen in the 50s. And the connection to Saadia was made by what you may call a seminal article by Georges Vaida, who the French prefer to call Vajda. In 1967, in Revue de Pijuit, autour de la connaissance chez Saadia, which is really a very important article. And there, Vaida showed very clearly what the meaning of sukun nafs is. I'm not sure whether it was Vaida or somebody else, maybe Van S, who showed really that this was a central element in Stoic philosophy, which means, and this is very important to understand. No, sukun nafs.
Ataraxia.
No, not fitra. It is not-
Ataraxia. Ataraxia, the Greek word is ataraxia.
Yes, it's not somebody that is inborn. It is a state of mind. The extraordinary
Mind,
thing,
not mind.
the extraordinary thing in that principle is that something which you may judge as utterly subjective, somebody's state of mind, somebody's psychological condition becomes so-called objective criterion or measurement of the truth. And apparently the Stoic philosophers were very serious about it. And this was accepted by many Mutakalimun, especially Mu'tazila. And this, as you see, it comes really into expression in Saadia's Kitab al-Amanat and in many other places. But the important thing is that it is a result of a protocol of study or of speculation. The other, because there is one kind of knowledge that does not come under this title, and this is what Saadia says here in source number 5, in the second short paragraph, Makama fil uqul, and in the English translation, which is inherent in those minds, which is very basic axiomatic articles of knowledge. Like, for instance, that truth is good and falsehood is evil, etc. Mathematical axiom, etc. This is inborn knowledge. Everybody is born with it. There is no way to prove it. Everybody is liable to reach this kind of knowledge sometime. Or, for instance, also this is also very, very important, some basic ethical principles, like one should not harm or damage the other. So everybody is supposed to know it. You don't have to learn it, you don't have to prove it. So we have two kinds of knowledge, which is the basic basis for this whole discussion here. There's one thing which is in our minds. We are born with it, and this you may call intuitive. There's another thing which after study and speculation, you reach it. Just one more short remark. The end of source number 5, the word secured compensation not to the accused, to the convicted. To the convicted. And mahkum alayhi is somebody against whom the verdict has already been made. So he is not accused, he is convicted. This is a technical.
Sorry, where?
The end of the last word on page 3.
In the upside. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm just sorry that we didn't have time to go over Sadia, but it's amazing. It's amazing source.
Yeah.
And even Rav Sadia speaks about el-qul wal-nufus. No, this is very interesting, the combination of qul and nufus to reach the truth. Yeah.
Okay, next, Gregor.
Two things. I mean, on the one hand, the quotations from the Murani, you didn't mention the volume, but it's actually volume 12. And the title of volume 12 is Kitab al-Nazar. So, and in the same volume, you will find that anybody's sukun al-nafs can change over time. So whatever you have sukun al-nafs towards, if one nazar leads you towards sukun al-nafs, on another point in time, it cannot, the same thing cannot lead to sukun al-nafs. So sukun al-nafs is not ilm yaqeen. These are two totally different things. And on the other hand, which is even more important, the same terminology doesn't mean that it is technical language. So if I say sakanat nafsi li ajlika, that doesn't mean that I have read the Murni. You may find songs on YouTube using sukun and nafs, and it doesn't they are not referring to an epistemological concept.
No, absolutely. But if you read a term, but in the same context, with the same meaning, with the same background, so you can say that there's some connection. If he barks like a dog and then looks like a dog, and so maybe it's a dog.
Okay, next here.
Sakuna nafs may have come from Syriac, Shafiuta de Liba. Sebastian Brock has several studies on this term.
Okay.
It means something similar: tranquility, wholeness, purity, clarity of the heart. Whereas the heart, the liba in Syriac, has a very similar meaning also in the entire Semitic, rabbinic equivalents. The liba is also the seat of the mind. It's not just the seat of the emotions, as we tend to differentiate, I think because of origin. But anyway, in this entire milieu, the heart and the mind were interchangeable. The heart was the seat of the mind and the seat of the emotions. And Shafiuta de Liba has a very, very similar connotation. Now, it usually occurs in the context of like spiritual and religious tranquility, but there are also some legal applications of this term in the context of Dayanim. I have to look it up, but I remember reading, I think it was in, I forget, I have to look up the sources, but there are definitely legal applications to the Dayanim who should also have this Shafiuta de Liba in the same, in very same sense.
Just following on that comment, bringing the name of the person who first alerted me to this was Rosenthal, has been mentioned here in his article on Derech Harov. The Bavli uses Salka Adata, and the Yerushalmi tends in similar places to use Salka Alibach. And they're just, Rashi likes the term occasionally that he uses on very special occasions, Libi Omer.
I would like to suggest an explanation to the change, the fact that Maimonides changes nafs to dat. I think
Here or
in Yichot Sanhedrin, Yichot I think that there is a difference between Sukun and Nafs, which does not bring Ein Yakin, and Kiyas Jadali, dialectic argument. Dialectic argument is supposed to convince you, and after consideration, after a process of nadar, you're convinced that this side has more true in it than this side. And this goes contrary to Burhan, which brings you to Ein Yakin. So I think maybe Rav Saadia uses more Chazalite concept of Sukun and Nafs. Maimonides is Aristotelian, and what he demands from the judge is to use dialectical argument. And this is a process of das, not of nafs.
Stoic origin, so maybe.
What?
If it was Stoic origin,
I think it's Aristotelian, the concept of dialectical argument.
The sources of common.
Hey, next, Professor
Just to follow, לא קיבלת רשות. The following Shai, I want to say there is another expression that appears in Jewish sources, in poetry, and also in the Sufi literature about Ein Alev. Ein Alev. So Ein Alev is an expression to express also thought and machshava, and it appears in both legal literature, in the Sufi, and it's a note by recent articles that wrote Mordechai Akiva Friedman. He put a note and he gives all the parallels. It's this expression, Ein Alev in Jewish sources and in Muslim sources.
and what is Ein Alev, and have you found it in the Jewish works in Judeo-Arabic?
Judeo-Arabic, I don't know.
There's
Anyway,
also
but I
biblical.
don't want.
It's also biblical. רבות מחשבות בלב איש.
כן, אבל אין הלב. This expression, הלב, is a Muslim and also appears in the Jewish literature, whatever, I don't know now exactly to make reference. But my another thought here, I don't know to extend the discussion here, but usually they speak about ilm in connection to God, knowing of God, or becoming close to God. In this regard, Maimonides uses it many times, and also, and it extends contradictory to the notion of ma'arifa, which is a Sufi expression of coming close to God. So these terms, ma'arifa on one side, which is including also the expression of nafs and in terms of feelings, all it appears in the Sufi sources, and against versus to it, it appears Maimonides always ilm and not ma'arifa. And the expression ma'arifa also appears even before in the Jewish literature, Rabbeinu Bachiyeh and other, I don't forget now exactly who, they use the name ma'arifa in order to express something that comes not from logic, but comes from feelings or heart. Versus Maimonides, they use always ilm in order to make a legal or logical considerations.
Next, anyone?
Thank you very much for this analogy. It's very illuminating the possibilities of this rabbi borrowing the concept from Muslim sources, but maybe before we are running to Muslim sources, we might want to consider the options that there is some Talmudic sources for this doctrine.
Rosh Hashanah.
There are several Talmudic issues that, if, for example, from Masechet Shvuot, which is the source for this halacha, מניין לדיין שיודע בדין שהוא מרומה שלא יאמר הואיל והעדים מעידין נחתכנו ויהיה כולה תלוי בצוואר העדים, תלמוד לומר מדבר שקר תרחק. So the idea of דין מרומה is Talmudic, in Bavli, in Yerushalmi, and I think that 99% of this doctrine is Talmudic, and it might be that the term, but not the concept, the term is coming from Islamic sources, but...
What is it again?
Din Merume. If he knows the Din Merume, but how he knows...
about tranquility of soul.
Yeah, but it's the doctrine that the witnesses cannot determine.
The Geonic approach of the Rishonim, Rabbi speaks about he knows by his mind, by his heart, by his soul, and so on.
Why is the meaning of that?
What I was trying to say, Maimonides read those Judeo-Arabic and took some of it and explained the Talmudic Sugiyot in a different way, but
the same
with regard to the Judeo-Arabic.
דינים שבלב, it's written in the Talmud, ביקש קהלת לדון דינים שבלב שלא בעדים שלא בהתראה. That's Maimonides' source. That's the term he's used, דינים שבלב, הדברים מסורים ללב. That's the term Maimonides. I'm not talking about the Geonim. You convinced me by the Geonim, but Maimonides is using דינים שבלב and דברים שבלב. And that's precisely the term
that used. And don't stop here. Please continue reading.
אמרה לו, יצתה בת קול ואמרה לו, כתוב יושר דברי אמת על פי שני עדים נקוב דבר.
Which means, according to this Talmudic paragraph,
you
should not involve your emotions, your soul into
but not according to the Sugya.
So you should not, so
okay, but
this is the opposite of what they was. So you have in the Talmudic phrases a lot of...
But according to Din Merumah, you can't determine the issue according to the witnesses if you are have some evidence that's
So now you will get into another problem, because what you are trying to say is according to Talmud, you should not involve your heart on the one hand, and if you feel that there is a problematic case, you should involve your heart. So you now create a contradiction. What the Geodic sources try to say is to explain how different sources can live together. I don't know if you've noticed, but now you create a contradiction in your case between two Talmudic sources.
No, because Maimonides
have a whole
article about that.
Okay.
So next is about,
I just have a very minor point, and it might be something I missed. You mentioned the transition between Shmuel ben Chofni and Rambam about nafs and nefesh to that. Does Shmuel ben Chofni use the term nafs? At least in the source you gave us, he just said it's maskunas. Does he use the term nafs?
From the root second.
Right. But does he use the...
He does not use the word nafs. This is why I brought it as the last source. But if you will combine together all the sources, you can understand that sucking here is like transquality of the something. So if you say again and again and again from several sources the idea of the quality of the soul, and he speaks here that he sees this witness saw something, and he relied on it, and then he added something that was not written in the Talmud, that something that of Shlomo Chofni is innovation, and he felt that he should add it. Why? Because he wanted to explain you why you should rely upon one witness. Because there's something. Just think about it. What was the case? The case was that someone told him that his wife cheated him. Okay? Cheats him. Okay? Now Rav Shlomo Chofni said, okay, if he's happy with it, what do you mean he's happy with it? What do you mean he's what do you mean?
No, I
There's no sense to use this term unless this is the meaning of the term.
No, I understand
Okay?
the meaning of it. I was just
I
wondering.
don't know. If someone will tell you, okay, if there's a problem with your wife, you lived with her for years, while you was in work, she went to, so one says, if you are very happy now, so what do you mean you are very happy?
No, I understand that.
I wouldn't choose this term unless there's a judicial background of this term. It's not happy, it's not, I'm sucky now, I'm relaxed. No.
I know that that's, I understand that's not what it means.
Okay.
I just wanted to,
Yes,
if
but
the
there's
issue
no,
is the transition from
I'm aware of
nafs or nefesh to dat, why?
Okay, so if your nafs masculine ila my idea, so you can go with it. Otherwise,
Something is masculine. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, we have time for
Or
one.
that, right, exactly. It could be
Or
that.
This is my suggestion. Okay. This is my suggestion. I think that you also see how I used it, and you can have it or you can leave it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not. Yeah.
We have one
This
more.
way I
Last
put it at the end.
We're running out of time. We have one more comment or question at the back. Yes.
I think in the judicial realm, what's going on here is apprehension, right? And you can either relegate apprehension to the mind or to the sentiment, or as a culmination of both of them. So I think that Maimonides in 6 is saying something very powerful, because the status quo.
Sorry.
Number 6. Yeah, in number 6. The status quo about these witnesses is that they're fine, they're kosher witnesses. There's nothing to discredit them. So as things stand, they ought to be trusted. And here, when Maimonides says, it's not that he has a knowledge about them, and it's also not a random sentiment in samach nafsho. It's not a detached sentiment, it's an apprehension, which is something that can often be traced back to actual things, like was the witness avoiding eye contact, were they shuffling? So there's a clash here between external evidence, which says these people take what they say for fact, and apprehension, and what the judge himself senses. And Maimonides ultimately decides that it's the apprehension, which can either be the mind or the soul, or the culmination of both, that trumps the trustworthiness, the actual evidence on these witnesses, so that it overrides them. So I think there's a lot of significance here to apprehension.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We are done for today. We're going to have a book tour now that I've